make the video public. So that people on Facebook's comments come through. And that's the video public on Facebook. Now, I put a wee video last night, folks. As you well know, I had a fantastic service for the NHS here. We'll get a wee bit more towards the end of the programme on that. But let's have a look, see who's on. We've Pet, Stuart, Stephen, we've got we've Pet again. I see you're having a wee discussion on Murrayfoot. We'll get to Murrayfoot. Okay. Now, on that wee video I put out last night, folks, somebody on YouTube called Clarkson674 left a comment saying that 65% of Scotland's goods would go to England, and that we would be dragging ourselves out that market with independence. Clarkson 674. If England's buying up 65% of our surplus, that tells you England's got a need. With the barriers they've put up to the left, to Europe, and to the right, to Ireland, who are still in Europe, there's very little places left that England can get their stuff free. And are they going to switch the lights out in the north of England? Are they? They're going to freeze everybody in the north of England when we cut the gas off. Remember that maritime boundary that was moved in 1998 moves back after independence. So half England's so-called gas wells will be back in Scottish waters. I guarantee you this, Clarkson 674. The Westminster government will go crawling up that A70, that M74, our broken glass. Or up the A1, our broken glass, to beg for a trade deal with Edinburgh. Wow. You're going to let the people go hungry. You're going to let the lights go out. You're running out of water. Jesus Christ. You think you're going to cut us off? See your population die. Thanks, Dexter. Right now, it's the Two Davies on the 24th of the 8th, 2023, with only one Davy. So I'm going to be doing this in the style of Indie Truck Davy. Alright. But it is still a Two Davies show. The other Davy is having to, he's had to go and sort out a sound system because he is a sound engineer and he's getting contract to sort these things out. He is a working man like the rest of us. You know, he runs a small business. He's one of the main assets of it. So he has to get his hands dirty now and again, or not. Anyway, so it's just myself today, and we've got a real lot to cover. Now, those of you who know the style of Indie Truck Davy, you will see me flash through this stuff. All right. Now, number one on the agenda today is Sam Ashford-Hayes of the Tory Graph telling under 50s on Brexit Island to flee. And he cites the fact that wages are still below the financial crash of 2008. There's a stagnating economy. And when there's a stagnating economy, for people to prosper, they have to leave that economic zone and move on. And that's exactly what's happening with young professionals here. Right across these islands. They don't see a future for themselves here, so they'll do the bloody toff. There's a massive brain drain on. But the Tory Graph, the Tories' bloody paper, are telling young professionals to flee. Mentally. Wow. Right. So what can you say to that? Inward investment's down. Companies are going to the wall because they can't get through the red tape to export to Europe anywhere. They're away their worlds out with their range. We're supposed to have avoided a recession. I don't think that's the way people are feeling it. So we've got the Tories telling the Tories to up sticks and run for the damage they have done. Right, let's move on. And Starmer, how low can he go? The Red Tories really are diabolical. He tries to score political points in the back of that nurse down the road, Lucy Ledbecker, who had murdered children. A serial killer. Now, Starmer's blaming Sunak for not amending the law on prisoners having to be in court, or convicted felons to be in court to receive their sentence. And he puts out a social media fishing exhibition for the Labour Party to bolster their leafleting drops and their email drops. How did they do it? Put up a petition to get Sunak to change the law. So you fill in your email address if you agree that they should change the law to compel prisoners to be in front of the judge to receive their sentence. You want to know what's funny about that? In England, if the judge wants a prisoner in court to receive sentence, according to the CPS's website, Crown Prosecution Service's website, if the judge deems it that that prisoner must be in court to receive sentencing and issues an order to that effect, then the prison service have to drag that prisoner to court, and they're allowed to use minimal force to get them there. In other words, they can bag them, tag them, put in a trolley, stick them in the back of a motor, and wheel them in. So there is no need for a law change. This is politicking at its lowest. How low can Starmer go? Now, Starmer's been up to all sorts this week and last week, but this week he's been challenged on dropping, getting rid of tuition fees in England and Wales. What was his reply? Oh, we'll administer them more fairly. Is that what we said about the bedroom tax and the rape clause? And the two-child cap? We'll administer them more fairly. How do you administer a two-child cap more fairly? And I see the Bamport was running about last week screaming for a bank holiday to celebrate if the Lionesses had won. Now, do you know, the last figures on what a bank holiday would cost the UK, because we've got the lowest amount of bank holidays most of the developed world, actually. We only get 8, most countries will get more. Right, the last figures in 2010 says the cost of a bank holiday to the economy is 2.9 billion. So we can say it's going to be a much more than that now, right? But here's Starmer wanting a bank holiday and all these lionesses to be made dames. That's a guy who was going to abolish the House of Lords, by the way. He wants them to be made dames. And that would cost, let's say, 4 or 5 billion now for a bank holiday. Right? Because this is always the argument. The economy can't afford more bank holidays. What would it cost to get rid of the two-child cap loan benefits? 1.8 billion. You could raise 250,000 children out of poverty like that. Political choices. Now, how do you administer tuition fees more fairly? Do you make the universities lower costs for a child with a less advantaged background? How do you do it? Would the Starmer say to that? Oh, we'll put meat on the bones later. But the Lucy Ledbecker thing, that just turned my stomach. That was a fishing expedition and a political point scoring or nothing. Judges in England can already compel prisoners to be in court for sentencing. That's a fact. Check the Crown Prosecution Service website. If the judge issues an edict to say that that person had to be in court for sentencing, then they would be dragged to the court for sentencing. Simple as that. So Starmer's political point scoring on the back of the misery of the parents was one of the sickest things I've seen in politics. I've been following politics for a long, long time. That's how low the Labour Party has gone under Starmer. Right, we're back on bloody ferries. Apparently, the Maritime Safety Agency has said they need to rejig the inside of the bloody Lansana. Even though this was brought up a year ago by the people who are constructing the bloody ferry. It's only just now that the Maritime Safety Agency, whatever they're bloody called, have decided, oh, you need another couple of staircases in there, and they corners need to be a couple of inches wider. So apparently that's going to cost us another 20 million, and it might hold the boat getting launched up. Big bloody deal! We're at 93.2 billion for HS2, and apparently it's never going to be finished. And you know what? The interesting thing about that 90 odd billion quid was Mason was buying land off Tory spivs so they could put a track through. A huge transfer of money for the public bus to Tory spivs to put a track through. For a train set that's probably never going to be built. The other interesting thing about that is they're talking about 350 million on ferries. 2 ferries. This bloody fiasco doing that road has already cost Scotland 9.2 billion. And there's no bloody railway there. Not that we're ever going to use the bloody thing. Oof. And I see they've dropped the big boring machines in. But they don't think they're ever going to bore anything because the project doesn't look viable anymore to get it through to whatever bloody station it is. Houston, I think it is. Mental. So, mere ferry bollocks. Let me make this clear. CalMac runs one of the most efficient ferry services on the planet. The ferry problem is legacy. Previous governments haven't invested. And that goes all the way back to before the Scottish Parliament existed. Oh, right, let's move on. I'm afraid that eminent philanthropist and entrepreneur Sir Tom Hunter has flipped his lid. He wants the UK government to devolve immigration and corporation tax. We already know the attitude of the UK government to devolving immigration so we can sort out our failing demographics. Remember, Scotland's got room for 25 million bloody people. There's only 5.4 this year. They've already said they wouldn't get a county council in England. Power immigration. That's how they think of your Holyrood Parliament. Not a parliament at all, it's a big county council, as far as they're concerned. Has Sir Tom not been paying attention? No disrespect to Sir Tom, he's obviously a busy man. As to corporation tax, they have no chance of devolving corporation tax. None. Absolutely none. The guy next door doesn't want Scotland having a competitive edge. That's why they've introduced the Internal Market Bill, to lower all our standards to the position they're in England. And when we talk about these things, the Internal Market Bill and levelling up the market across the UK will eventually lead to prescription charges being back here, to bridge tolls being back here, to the end of the free travel for 12 to 22-year-olds, to the end of the baby box, to the end of the uplift, and £25 a week for the poorest children in Scotland, dragging them out by bringing 90,000 children out of poverty. All the advantages that we've had since devolution, end of free universities, tuition fees, end of our NHS, our wonderful NHS, our NHS which we have to invest really, really heavy in because of the cuts to what we get for health and the Barnett formula over the last 13 years. We've more or less had to drag money from other areas of public spending and put it into the NHS to keep it at the standard it's in, to keep everything free at the point of need. We know that's being whittled away down that road. And when they do fully privatise that NHS down the road, there will be no Barnett formula. So if we stay in this union, we're going to be forced to follow suit. But that's what the Internal Market Bill was all about. Okay, so if Sir Tom thinks he can convince them to devolve these powers, good luck to you, Sir Tom. Never going to happen. And Angela Rayner just last week or early this week made it quite clear Scotland should get no more powers. Simple as that. And I see Corbyn was up here at the festival saying that if he had won that election, he would have given us the referendum after 2 years. He would have agreed to it because he's basically a Democrat. Huh? No much democracy going on in the UK. Right, where are we? So that's Sir Tom Hunter dealt with. As I say, there's no chance the red or blue Tories in another country are going to grant us anything. We want it, we're going to have to take it. Right, Miss Sturgeon gets her police protection removed, and she seems relieved actually. Big story about it in the press, 600,000 costly. First Ministers don't normally have post security. The reason why she had it was the amount of death threats that she got, and the amount of people who have been taken to court for threatening to kill her. Or for making threatening social media posts here. 7, I think it is. There's another 2 in Dundee there just get done. For a racist abuse against the First Minister in Dundee. So, you know, the reason why she had protection was because her life was under threat. And it was seen as necessary, but apparently it's not seen as necessary anymore. And she's very relieved. In fact, when asked about it, she said, I'm very relieved because it means I'll be able to go for a cup of coffee with a cop sitting at the next table listening to everything I'm going to say to my friends. Right, let's move on to Murray Foot. You'll see we're motoring through this. And I see there's a great debate going on with Glee and the Alp Party and others who are claiming this is a state takeover of the SNP. Because Murray Foot was the author of the vow. Wee bit of background there. Murray Foot, as far as he was concerned, was making that offer in good faith to the Scottish people. And a lot of people back then thought Devo Max was the right way to go. But I remember the anger of Murray Foot as he watched the Smith Commission unfold. I remember the very public rebuke he made about it. And then his moving of position from no to yes. Because he realised that further devolution wasn't going to happen. So the next step is you take back control. But is this a good appointment or no? Time will tell. But the way things are standing at the moment, and we'll get to the new poll out, we might not win a plebiscite election if these polls are correct. So, news is new Salvation poll out puts Labour in Scotland 2 points behind the SNP. John Curtis says if that's the case, then it'll be a split 24 for the SNP, 24 for Labour. The rest got been divided between Tories, Lib Dems. Now, support for independence is holding up at 48%, but basically 50-50. It swings back and forth each time as a poll, depending on who's doing the bloody polling. But if this polling is correct, this isn't good news. We're going to have to work harder. Be believed. If these polls are to be believed, then the cause has been set back a long way. I know I've said this will be my last campaign. I don't want it to be in failure. I'm used to being this hot streak of winning. The last election was a bit of a setback, UK election. Holyrood election was a great success as usual. But this is a problem if these polls are true. And it would appear that Patrick Harvey slipped his lid and all. He's decided to split the vote in Hamilton and Rutherglen and Hamilton West. So if the Alpha Stone won and the Green Stone won, The amount of votes lost could be enough to let Labour slip through the middle, and of course, if that happens, they'll be shouting, there's no appetite for independence, there's no appetite for independence, there's no appetite for independence. Now, I quite understand these parties' rights and stand. It is a democracy. I'm a Democrat. But I said this 2 years ago with my truck. You'll be able to find that video out there under hashtag Indie Truck Davy. And I've made it clear that this movement had been on the go for so long that if you put any cracks in the movement, then the unionists and their press would put big levers in and bust it right open. If people don't stop and think and put independence before anything else and have a look at the vehicles that are available to get us there, do we wait 30 years for the Alpha Party to break through? Or, to be generous, let's talk about the guy who did Scott Does Pop, the Alpha Party member, who has said that if the SNP are derailed, we're looking at least 20 years, 30 years before the Alpha Party is ready to move. Thanks, Eddie. That's very generous of you. Very generous of you. You know, if we don't stay on the bus we're on, I'm afraid this is a lost cause. It really is. And if the Greens and the Alpha Party are going to be stalling in all the constituencies at the next election, that might be enough to derail the movement. I understand the right to stand a day, but it's time to pick country before party politics. The disciplines without the movement, and I did say that. I said it 2 years ago. I can see this happening. I can see certain people and their egos manoeuvring and doing stupid, feckin' things. The other thing we've got to remember is David Milligan is absolutely correct when he says this. The international community will be looking in because this will be a plebiscite election, and they will only be looking at the SNP. If the SNP don't get that majority of seats they need to declare, it ain't going to happen. The international community will just turn their back on it and say, well, Scotland obviously wants to be in this bloody union, let them suffer with everybody else on Brexit Island. You know? So, that's a new surveying poll. Look. SNP on 37, Labour on 35. The recent YouGov poll had SNP on 36 and Labour on 32. Thanks, fellas. Thanks, Alison. We'll be sending some more out next week to food banks. Very generous. The fund's sitting over £600 now. And that's before the YouTube stuff comes in. Thank you very much. Very generous of these guys. And it will help our communities. So, we have to up our game, folks, and we have to get disciplined and get back behind the cause of independence. And we have to look at what's around us right now and say, what is the vehicle to get us to over this line? But, and another interesting part of that poll shows that Labour in England are up to 42% in the polls. That poll also reflects that the people in England only voting Labour because of change of policy and that, because they're not being offered that. They're voting Labour because they're fed up with the Tories. And that could well happen here in Scotland too, folks. It could. Right, but we know in Scotland the difference is, if there's a swing for the SNP to Labour, then independence is after cards, and we're going to have to put up with the pish that we're putting up with right now, while our resources are being stolen and our children go to bed hungry. It's time for the trickle down to go for Edinburgh South, not for London North. Let's face it, this is where all the assets in the UK are. 90% of them anyway. But I would expect the Greens will probably lose a deposit earlier in Hamilton rather than going west, as this one is definitely going to be a punch out between the SNP and Labour. Right. But when it comes to it, if this last campaign that I'm going to be involved in as a fail, it's because it's been so long, the UK state has strung it out and strung it out and strung it out. It's allowed the splits in the movement that they knew was coming to evolve. In fact, they probably created half the splits them bloody selves. Infiltration in the movement was always going to be a problem. Same with political parties and trade unions, animal rights movements, CND, all been infiltrated. We know this is a fact. Anyway, let's move on. Kenny McCaskill pens piece in the Scotsman to tell us, so Kid Starver has no principles, and is gunning for his deputy leader Angela Rayner, right? She's 240 left for him. No, I can't block him because I'm not on YouTube. Nathan, I can't block him. I'm sorry, I can't even see him here. Just ignore him. He is a troll. Anyway, the other thing that McCaskill tells us is that the Holyrood Parliament, because of what's been going on down that road, is now a zombie parliament, and he's probably right. But he also reiterates that Starmer's no offering anything going forward. Neither's he. He's the guy that penned an article recently on mere devolution being the next step to independence. Play the long game. Key jock a bobble and will keep his gob shut for a wee while. Some of these has-beens are better shuffling off the deck. Okay. Right, I see Clunky Fist has been brought out the cupboard again. And dusted down. This time is to tell us that the Scottish Social Security Service is a waste of money. This is going to be a trend going forward as they shut down all the different areas of devolution. What he said is the Scottish Government should use the Department of Work and Pensions and tell them what they want them to take. And that way they didn't have to set up a £700 million different Social Security Service. But would the Department of Work and Pensions do anything that the Scottish Government said? Now, what the hell? They just say we're not giving you extra spending in that area. So you come to an agreement through you come to an agreement with Westminster. We put in marine services because we're going to need them as instruments of state when we leave this union anyway. We're going to need a Social Security Service. Anyway, Yusuf hits back at Big Dark Gordy and tells him it was worth setting up because there are 13 benefits being administered through that agency, 7 of them unique to Scotland, 7 of them that there isn't anywhere else in the UK. He also makes it clear that it's a much more humane service. There's no ATOS up here. When you go to claim benefits, sickness benefit or whatever, your doctor's word's good enough for the assessors at the Scottish Social Security Service. And if your doctor says that's you, you're out the game forever. You can't work anywhere. Then you're not getting brought in for assessment every year or 2 years. That's it. Your doctor said you're not fit for work, you're not fit for work. No need for ATOS at a great cost to keep bloody well annoying people, stress them out, kill them off. And the other thing that Scottish Social Security Service has done through the child uplift, as I've said, has taken 90,000 children here in Scotland out of poverty. 90,000. Sounds like money well spent to me, Gordon. We've just spoke about how your almighty leader, who threw your ideas, Gordon, on federalism straight in the bin, used you as a mug, Gordon. The same way they did use you as a mug in the last referendum. Here, we'll get Gordon Brown to offer them Devo Max. And when asked about it, you know what Gordie Brown said? She read the fucking small print. Wow. I'm getting bored with these people. Has been tells us how to spend more money. Has been who helped steal the wealth of the Scottish nation and starve Scottish children. Tells us how to spend more money. I got a message for Gordon. Stein your cat! Wow. Right, back good news here in Scotland. Drug deaths down. Drug deaths are about to come down. The people we've been seeing die at a significant high over the last 5 years, they're generally legacy drug users, as we call them. These are the ones who lived through the 80s and the 90s when everybody was laid off and things were pish. And he started self-medicating to forget the misery of the Maggie years. These are the ones that are dropping off. But, so we're being told that Scotland still has the highest drug death level, even though it's down to 1,051, which, you know, that number will go up again. We're about to hit another big long recession. The UK's in the doldrums, as Sam, through the Telegraph tells us. There's no growth to be had. Cut yourself off with everything. We're going to see the same sort of effects on the population of today that you see in the populations in the mid late 80s and early 90s. So although these figures are coming down, if things go the way they normally go, and times of economic hardship, then people tend to self-medicate to forget their miseries. All sorts of debauchery goes up on downturns. For alcoholism, drug use, whatever, as people try and get escapism for the misery that is their lives. That's just the way it is. And a wee message for John, who everybody is annoyed with. When David's back on Monday, John, drop in. Right, so drug deaths are down, folks. There is this fanfare about no. By the way, just so you know, in the graph, Scotland has the highest drug deaths in Europe. Our UK's got the second highest drug deaths in Europe, and Southern Ireland has got the third, and I think it was Norway that had the fourth. Drug deaths here in Scotland are 93% what they call accidental poisoning, and 7% deliberate poisoning. That's what we call it, drug poisoning. They call it poisoning on the death certificates. Now, when we talk about death certificates here in Scotland, death certificates in other parts of the UK, this could have an effect on the figures here. On the death certificate here in Scotland, you get a primary cause of death, and then you get contributing factors. In England, it's just primary cause of death. So it could well be we see much lower figures there because they don't add contributing factors to primary cause of death in the death certificate. But say 7% of people who died of drug overdoses here in Scotland last year took their own lives deliberately. So they'll also be part of the suicide tally, which is also quite high, especially among men. You know. But we'll see the numbers all going up and all right across these islands as things get worse and worse and worse. And they will. They will get worse. It's been set up that way in order to get inflation down. They're trying to induce a recession. We've just seen 118 small breweries, craft breweries, go out of business down that road. London restaurants saying they're shutting their doors because of Brexit. So things will get worse. And as they do get worse, as the Black Report shows, people start to self-medicate. Okay. Okay, so that's a dog death story, which is a good news story. Although I haven't painted it as a good news story, it is a good news story. But they will, if trends that have happened through previous recessions show, a debauchery, alcoholism, drug use, and all that goes up during down times as people try escapism from the harsh realities of their lives. That's just a fact. Well, one of the other things I didn't say about Starmer is his mad idea of hitting the economy to the tune of 3 or 4 billion for a bank holiday for the Lionesses if they won the World Cup. So you could really lift with what's left out of the money for that bank holiday at 4 billion quid, 1.8 billion at the end of the 2-child cap. Could feed all the bloody school children doing that. If you feed and nurture the next generation coming through, your economy will do well. If you take the situation that we have in the UK at the moment, where parents are struggling to feed their children, food bank use is at an all-time high, what we've got coming in the next generation is a poorly educated and bad health population. That's what's coming. That's the future. One of the reasons why this Telegraph reporter has told kids to flee if they want a prosperous life. Okay, right, let's move on. This one's been a cracker, your story, this one. Wagner leader pays price for attempted coup in Russia. 2 months after his failed coup attempt, Yevgeny Prigozhin dies in plane crash, or so it's been said. Right? The Keir Giles of the Russian Affairs think tank thinks Yevgeny Prigozhin might still pop up and be alive. Because apparently this guy has been doing the Putin thing, and there's a lot of them changed their name to his name in order to try and make it easier for him to travel around. But reports are that he and him and a 53-year-old general, Dmitry Yutrik, who was also on the flight, has also died. Now, there was 10 people on that flight. Now, according to footage, it looks as if this thing was hit with something or had an explosion, because when it come down spiraling, it come down minus a wing apparently. So it was either shot down or there was something in that wing that made it go pop. Or catastrophic structural failure of the plane. But apparently there is no such history of that happening with that particular model that he had as a private plane. So, of course, all the drums are being banged on this one. Look over there, because let's face it, war's worse than the starvation and deprivation that's going on here in the UK, apparently. Mostly due to the stupidity of Brexit. So, it's big news today. Now, everybody's speculating on whether Putin had him taken out. There's an election coming up in Russia. I would say Putin silenced them. Took him out to silence any critics in Russia, to probably suppress any attempted coup happening again, whether it be political or whether it be militarily. So, anyway, what's going to happen to the Wagner Group? Well, according to their website, nothing. They're actively recruiting for what they call their work in Africa. Now, as we know, South Africa's holding the BRICS conference. That was the weekend there, I think. And apparently the Chinese presidents have failed to make an important speech, so maybe we split in it. But as I say, the Wagner Group, according to their website, are actively recruiting and they're doing all right. So I dare say that some commander within the Wagner group were aware of what was about to happen and has stood up to the plate and said, right, I'll take on the responsibility. Because the Wagner group makes a lot of money. Delivering death and destruction across the planet and getting up to all sorts of naughtiness on behalf of the Russian state. But doing it freelance. Wonderful stuff. Right, moving on, a wee bit comedy now. It would appear that Mad Nadine Dorris has come out of hiding to tell the press that her and her team of 4 caseworkers are working hard daily for her constituents. The Mad Nads, this comes as Mad Nads, a mid-Bedfordshire constituency have started putting up posters, or missing person posters, all over the constituency saying, have you seen this person? Apparently we're up to about 430 days now since she last entered Parliament. But according to her, she's working hard for her constituency office even though nobody's seen her. Now, she was then asked when she intended to step down. She said when the time is right, she's getting on with the job for her constituents, and when she finds out why she didn't get a peer, didn't get the peer out, she'll be looking for the peership or whatever you want to call it. Well, the answer, Nads, whether you want to believe it or not, is Boris Johnson's a bloody liar. So when he told you he was going to give you an honour, he bloody well lied. What did he get you today from, Nads? Yeah. But I really thought that one. I mean, what can you say to that? You know, and just as Mad Nads has come up out of the ether, come up out of hiding, the Home Office releases its asylum figures on the backlog. Now, apparently the backlog has reached 177,000 people who are waiting on a decision on asylum here in the UK. That's up 44% on 2022. So much for Sunak's promise to stop the votes. Anyway, so Sunak promised when he came to power that he would clear this backlog by the end of the year. Now, the Home Office has been processing 2,000 cases a month. In order to get through that backlog, the Home Office would need to be processing 11,000 cases a month. So, that's another one of his pledges he's not going to be able to make. And the amount of asylum claims which have been withdrawn, this is an interesting one, right? In the year 2022, only 60 people who came here seeking asylum withdrew their application and moved on. Guess how many it was in 2023? Oh, it'll be June 2023 for June 2024. 15,308 people had decided to scrap their claim of asylum and move on. It would appear these are the smarter ones, the ones that have arrived here can watch the news, decipher what's going on, realise there's no economic future for them in the UK, and then maybe move on to another country where they might have family and friends that can support them. The other interesting about that report on immigration, according to the Home Office, right? According to the Home Office, 86% of those who put in an asylum claim are accepted. And when it comes to Rwanda, and Suella Braverman and her cruel policy to send people to Rwanda, which wouldn't send that many people there anyway. What's interesting about that is I don't think they're going to make it through Supreme Court because apparently a fair slice of the people who are seeking asylum come from Rwanda. So we're going to send people somewhere where there are people coming here seeking asylum to the Rwandan regime. Wow. Looks like that one's right out the window, eh? Absolutely mental. Absolutely mental. And finally, as I said yesterday, I was going to talk a wee bit more about Kilkenny. Now, as you know, an Indie Truck Davies style holiday, 45 minutes. I'll try and push this. I'll be a wee bit more than 45 minutes, but I'll maybe not make the whole hour because the hour right enough was a fair bit here. Right, anyway, finally, NHS in crisis, apparently, staffing crisis. And apparently Grampian's got a problem with consultants, recruiting consultants. Newsflash, got a problem recruiting consultants everywhere. But apparently, Dr. Grays and Elgin don't have enough A&E consultants for the service to be safe. Apparently this is whistleblowers. So the BBC get on Dr. Gilhaney of a Tory MSP. What he tells us is that it's due to poor workforce planning. The workforce planning is a massive thing in the NHS. It really is. But the real reason why we're having problems recruiting doctors and training doctors and things like that is because of 13 years of cuts. When this was pointed out to Dr. Gilhaney, he tried to claim that NHS is totally devolved. It is. BBC presenter John Beattie in Drive Time was saying, oh, hold on, no, it's not. Funding is basically controlled down south. Gilhaney went, no, and tried to waffle his way around it. But after 13 years of cuts down that road, that means 13 years of less consequentials, as we spoke for the ballot formula. That's less money to spend on health and social care, all right? So, John Beattie wasn't having much of his nonsense, actually. He just went on a triad about SNP bad, SNP bad, SNP bad. Right, but John eventually gets sick of it and went, hey, enough, right, what do you make of Tom Hunter's idea of devolving immigration and devolving corporation tax? To which Gilhaney says, you can't devolve corporation tax because the Greens intend to shut down industry. They've said they're going to shut, the Greens have said they're going to shut down industry. At that point, John Beattie just about had enough of his nonsense and said, the Greens didn't say that at all. And that was the end of the interview, but it was pretty poor. But I thought I would have a wee look at what Mr. Gilhaney's claim was about bad workforce management. There's been two workforce management plans put in place over the last few years, and it has seen the NHS and social care workforce here in Scotland be the biggest workforce across Scotland. All right. There was a workforce plan put in place on the 19th of December 2022, and another one launched in March. 19th of December 2019, and the latest one was launched. The review of that and the latest one was launched on the 11th of March 2022. Now, in that workforce planning, the NHS in Scotland, as I say, and Health and Social Care in Scotland have now got more people working in the sector than ever been at any time in Scottish NHS and social care history. The other thing that's interesting to note is that NHS workers and health and social care workers here in Scotland are paid more than anywhere else in these islands. And that even includes in care homes, because the Scottish Government has subsidised Care Scotland to up the wages of those working even in the private sector. It's not where they want it to be, but it's only so much you can do within the constraints of the Scottish budget. Now, I've already stated earlier in the programme, health is the biggest consumer of the Scottish budget, and it's actually drawn out other areas and due to extra taxation here in Scotland because we have the 5 bands to ensure that our NHS is in a much better state than the one south of the border, and of course we haven't had any strikes here, which is a good point that's been made. Now, folks, when I'm doing the Two Davies format, I don't really have time to when I'm back forward today to watch all your comments. So I'm sorry if I've missed something which might be important. Right. So there is the conference this weekend with the trade union group for the SNP. Need to start getting some cohesion back in the movement, folks. I don't want my last campaign to be a fail. And if it's going to be a plebiscite election, I want it to be a screaming bloody success. And I'll be up in my game and all. All right, couple of things coming up this weekend. Say the TUG, apparently I've got a gig going on in Glasgow. Can somebody send me a link? And it's Wallace Day, and there'll be a ceremony at the Wallace Monument in Johnston, okay? Elderslie, sorry. Kick off at 3 p.m. Okie dokie. So workforce planning. There hasn't been poor workforce planning at all. The biggest problem to recruitment in the NHS here in these islands is Brexit. 13 years of cuts. Staff are overworked, underpaid, right across these islands, even though they're better paid here in Scotland what they are anywhere else. Still a hell of a strain on it. I see Professor, what's his name again? Scotland's Chief Medical Officer, he's issuing a warning for the up and coming winter. The new strain of this virus that we're not allowed to name. Okie dokie. Right, that's it for the day, folks. We've done no bad, we've done 50 minutes. I hope you liked the delivery, I hope you liked the information I was given to you. As you know, we added this, and so does David, because what we get in the mainstream media is a lot of pish. It doesn't reflect reality. It doesn't reflect the reality of real people's lives on the ground. It isn't actually holding truth to power. What it's actually doing is setting the narrative. And that narrative is to keep the peasants from getting restless by throwing one dead cat on the table after another. One bloody dead cat. Thanks, Mr. E. That is bloody exceptional. Thank you. Only one rant, Davey. Hey, I'll put this one up because if we do. Only one rant, Davey. I was expecting more. You're about to get one. Thank you, Mr. E. That is jolly generous of you. It really is. Now, actually, it threw me there. The reason why we can't recruit, as I say, consultants and things like that, Brexit, 13 years of bloody austerity. Madness. Same and all with this idea of starving kids and charging them for their education down that road. And the knock-on effect is going to have right across these islands. Because what's coming through is a generation who are going to be underdeveloped educationally, underdeveloped physically, and we're going to have huge pressures coming down the line. Unless we start investing in more people and start investing in the future. And here in Scotland, that means keeping your eyes on the bloody prize. And get some cohesion back in this bloody movement, because I'm not going out on a loss. Almost every campaign I've been involved with, except for 2014, has been a raging success. And even that was a raging success, because it takes us from 28% yes to 48% yes before we can start a bloody campaign. Eyes on a prize. And all you waddups out there and want to put your ego before your country. Get a grip. Anyway, a wee rant for Mr. E. Thank you very much, kid folks. Thanks for tuning in. Okay. You stop smoking, Mr. E, so it's better spend like that. It's going to help some of your children reach their full potential, I hope. So, have a nice day. Now, because I've put this out as a Two Davies, I'm wearing the Two Davies. If you want to share it on social media, go ahead. Please share it on social media. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and please come back. You'll get notifications as I put each programme out. Now, the other Davies should be back on Monday, where the pace of the show will be a wee bit more leisurely. But it's nice to see audience figures so high. It's heading steady at 200 between the two platforms. That's a good live audience, folks. It really is. That's a great live audience. Thanks very much to you all for your kind generosity. But I expect nothing less to the YouTube community. I've never met such a generous bunch of people when it comes to promoting each other's channels and helping each other's channels help charities and things like that. Maximilian Rosebeard promotes their channel, Daily Bliss, and we promote his channel, and we pass it around, and hopefully it helps to keep people informed, because the mainstream media is a bloody joke. It really is. And I've made it to 54 minutes. Have a nice day. Catch you on Monday. I'll win. But create the event for Monday. Catch you later. See you again, my Madam Director. Goodbye, Madam Director. Bye, guys.